All right, David Benavidez versus Demitrius Andrade for the interim WBC super middleweight title. Now, when this fight was first announced, first made, my initial reaction was David Benavidez is going to destroy Demitrius Andrade. Andrade is too small. He's too old. Remember, this is a guy who used to fight at 154. He's now at 168. He's 35 years of age. And although he's relatively tall, he's 6 feet tall, David Benavidez is 6 feet too. Obviously, height and all that kind of stuff doesn't mean everything in boxing. We know that. But I'm just talking about the overall, size of Benavidez compared to Andrade. He is a fully fledged super middleweight / light heavyweight, whereas Demitrius Andrade's come up through the weights over the years. And as I say, Andrade, for me, my initial thoughts were he's just going to be too small and too old. I mean, we saw him a couple fights back against Liam Williams get hurt on several occasions. If Liam Williams is able to do that to you, he's able to walk you down and pressure you and make you look ragged and uncomfortable. Imagine what David Benavidez is going to do. I know David Benavidez is a much bigger target, okay? So maybe it's going to be easier for Demitrius Andrade to find his range and all that kind of thing against the bigger guy. But nevertheless, you have to expect David Benavidez is going to put hands on Demitrius Andrade at some point, and the results are probably not going to be great for Andrade. On top of that, Andrade has been inactive over the past few years. He has fought earlier on this year against Desmond Nicholson, but prior to that, he did not fight at all in 2022, fought twice in 2021, once in 2020. So as you can see, not the greatest level of activity. Whereas with David Benavidez, he did fight earlier this year against Caleb Plant, fought once last year. So not massively active himself, but a bit more active than Demitrius Andrade. And when it comes to activity, being inactive tends to hurt older fighters more so than younger fighters. David Benavidez is only 26 years of age, in the prime of his life. Demitrius Andrade, again, 35. So that was my initial thought. However, Demitrius Andrade is a southpaw. And I was thinking to myself, when's the last time David Benavidez fought a southpaw? It does matter, particularly with a pressure fighter like Benavidez, because I've said this in many videos recently. When it comes to orthodox fighters, boxers usually handle southpaws better than pressure fighters do. Yeah, boxers can usually find a way to land that straight right hand and fiddle around with a southpaw, whereas pressure fighters are coming forward all the time. So they're not on the outside generally looking to play that game of who can land their backhand first. And that actually puts them in the southpaw's wheelhouse. Southpaws generally like fighting orthodox pressure fighters. I'm generalizing here. There are obviously going to be exceptions, but I'll give you an example. Marcos Maidana, he fought a lot of people back in the days at 140, 147. When he fought Victor Ortiz, he did win that fight, but he was on the ground several times in the fight. That's a southpaw. He later on fought, obviously, Amir Khan, and that was a great fight. He fought Floyd Mayweather a couple of times. Anyone that was in a fight with this guy knew they'd been in a fight, even Mayweather. Mayweather got hurt. Maidana was a very good pressure fighter, very destructive, but there was one fighter who absolutely beat the brakes off him and comfortably got a decision over him, and that was Devon Alexander. You guys remember that? Because you look at a guy like Victor Ortiz. Hope I didn't say Luis Ortiz earlier on. Look at a guy like Victor Ortiz. Ortiz isn't that side on as a southpaw. He squares up quite a lot. Whereas Devon Alexander's more side on. He's more of the slick southpaw. And again, those are the kind of southpaws that make it very, very difficult for pressure fighters. Maidana just could not bridge the gap. He could not find the angles that he normally finds against orthodox fighters or a squared up southpaw like Victor Ortiz. So looking at David Benavidez's record here, the last time he fought a southpaw, and obviously it's not just him fighting a southpaw, it's the quality of southpaw, so on and so forth. But the last time he fought a southpaw, as far as I can tell, would have been Dennis Douglin back in 2016. That is a very long time ago indeed, 2016. And Dennis Douglin is no Demitrius Andrade. Even though Andrade's old, he is a completely different level of fighter than Dennis Douglin. For those of you who may not remember, Dennis Douglin is the guy who's trained by his mum. His mum's in his corner and all that. It's a strange thing. I think he's called, is he called Mama's Boy? Is that his nickname? Yeah, Mama's Boy, because his mum literally trains him. Very strange thing. He fought George Groves back in the days. But yeah, that's the last southpaw that David Benavidez has fought. That's no indication of how David Benavidez would deal with Demitrius Andrade. Because again, Dennis Duglin's about what, 5'9"? Yeah, 5'9". So he's much shorter than Demitrius Andrade, doesn't have that kind of reach, doesn't have that kind of speed, doesn't have that kind of power. The thing about Andrade is he's not necessarily a massive puncher, but he's a very sharp puncher and he starts fast. And so he surprises people early in fights with that speed and the sharp punching. Once you get warmed up to his power, once you get warmed up to the suddenness of his shots and you maybe are able to start anticipating what he's going to do and when he's going to throw, fighters tend to take the shots better as the fight goes on. That's the pattern of Demitrius Andrade fights. He starts fast, but if he can't get you out of there early, he slows down quite considerably. So will that be the case here against David Benavidez? Will Demitrius Andrade come out fast, maybe sting Benavidez, manage to hurt him possibly? I'm just asking these as questions. And then David Benavidez takes over because Demitrius Andrade can't get him out. I mean, if you look at the guys that Andrade's fought, who he's gone rounds with and hasn't managed to take out, again, the Liam Williamses of the world, Selecki managed to go 12 with him. Artur Akovov he nearly went 12. Walter Katandokwa, that was for the vacant WBO middleweight title. Again, with a lot of these guys, he's dropping him and he's hurting him early, certainly against Liam Williams, but he's not taking him out. If he's not taking these guys out, is he really going to take David Benavidez out? I know Benavidez can be hurt, and maybe we'll see Andrade sting him. But even though we don't really have any form for David Benavidez with regards to southpaws of late, I'm still going to pick David Benavidez to win. Again, because of the age, because of the natural size, because of the inactivity of Demitrius Andrade, because of Andrade having issues with some other pressure fighters in the past, I'm going to pick Benavidez, but not quite as confidently as I initially was. Because again, haven't seen him in against a southpaw for a long time, and he is a pressure fighter. Southpaws tend to like pressure fighters. So let me know what you guys think about this fight in the comment section below. David Benavidez versus Demitrius Andrade. How do you see it? Who do you think is going to win? Leave your comments below. And before I go, I want to give a shout out to all the new subscribers to my Patreon page. I cover loads of different topics in my weekly podcast, as you can see on screen right now, from current events to deep dives down the rabbit hole and everything in between. I'm really enjoying the feedback and the discussions we've been having on there lately. So if you'd like to join the conversation, just click the link in the description box below. Are you sick and tired of the mainstream mindset? Does the dogmatic conformity and pathological ignorance have you tearing your hair out in frustration? Then don't be alone. Come and join our brotherhood on Patreon. We stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. You'll gain access to my weekly topical podcast, where we take more deep dives than Jacques Cousteau on an endless variety of subjects. There's also videos, interviews, live Q&As, as well as a vast back catalogue of previous episodes, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen via the Patreon app or download in high-quality MP3. Connect with myself and hundreds of other members in our Element chat group. There's no contract, no commitment, you can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a Mickey D's McMuffin. Just head to my Patreon page via the link below this video and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. I'll see you over there.